Hello, race fans, and welcome to the Southern National Motorsports Park for round two of Ottercar. Here we are tonight at the Southern National Motorsports Park here in Lucama, North Carolina. This track is coming in at 4/10 of a mile or 0.64 kilometers in length, so just a little bit longer than Hickory for the previous round, but still in North Carolina, just about 200 miles away on the other end of the state. Opened in 1993, this track was initially made for the NASCAR Weekly Series. So, for the various lower divisions that NASCAR hosts, such as the modifieds that we are racing tonight, late models, street stocks, all of that sort of stuff. In the early 2000s, they switched from being a NASCAR sanctioned track to being an ASA sanctioned track, which did not seem to work out for them as the track ended up shutting down in 2008. But in 2012, they reopened under new ownership once again as a NASCAR sanctioned track, where they remain to this day, hosting weekly racing for all of the lower divisions of NASCAR, late models, tour mods, everything you'd expect. And I believe they actually even have an ARCA race lined up at some point later this year. But that is enough about the track. The drivers should be just about finished with qualifying, so how about we go take a look at your starting lineup? Starting on pole tonight, driving the number 217 is Felix Murray. And starting to his outside, driving the 621 machine for the Rainbow Society Team 2 is Humongous. In third place, driving the number 69 entry is Ben Dover, with Octave in the 11 rounding out the second row. In fifth place, driving the number 420 entry is Oh You Know, and in sixth place is Pete Comey driving the 717. In seventh place, driving the number 12 entry for the Rainbow Society Team 1 is Pav, and to his outside for Blaze and Drunk Drivers, driving the number 37 is Dragon Space Queen, starting in 8th. In ninth place is Stick, driving the number 53, and in 10th place is Sarah Saviron in the 117. In 11th, also for Blaze and Drunk Drivers, is Madcap in the 38 entry, and rounding out our first 6 rows is Lake in the 330 machine, starting in 12th. Starting off row 7 is Valinar in the 776 for Blazed and Drunk Drivers, and Bloody Wolf in the 93, starting 14th. In 15th is Frosty Film, our previous race winner in the number 7, and in 16th is August in the 21. In 17th is Halo in the 0, and in 18th is Thirds in the 3 for the Rainbow Society Team 1. In 19th, in the 25 machine, is Maroon for the Rainbow Society Team 2. In 20th is Med in the number 1. 21st to Drop Table Roster in the 369, who finished second in our previous race. 22nd to Arvo Sobrov in the 429. 23rd to Zoe in the 666 entry. And rounding out our field tonight is Piper in the number 8 machine. That is your starting lineup here tonight, presented by the Rainbow Society and by Hybrid Development Team. The pace car is off, and we are going green flag racing here at the Southern National Motorsports Park for 90 laps. Felix Murray off to a good lead. He managed to hold on to the high side well enough. Ben Dover already starting to work his way around Humongous in that 621 machine. Humongous manages to get his car down to the low side and is doing a good job holding on to that spot. It does seem like this is another track where the low side is a bit more favorable for these drivers, but we're still 2 by 2 almost all the way back through the field, so that is not going to stop people, favorable line or not. Everyone is going to fan out a little bit and try to hold on to whatever positions that they can. We do have a few drivers that are already several positions down from where they qualified, presumably drivers that are stuck up on the outside line, but that's not necessarily the case throughout the whole field. Driving the 717, Pete Comedy is still up where he qualified in the... Well, now he's moved up a spot, but he's battling for where he qualified in that 6th position. And even though he's stuck up on the high side, he is managing to make it work in that 717 Reddit machine. That said, there still is 80 laps to go in this race, a little bit over even, and you do not want to be burning rubber off of these Hoosier tires. There's still a long race to go, and drivers like Felix Murray up in the lead, who are doing an amazing run right now, may not be holding on to their speed in the long run. It's definitely something these drivers have to consider, balancing out their short run speed with their tire wear, because they do not get any extra sets of tires here in Ottercar as Felix shoves Piper out of the way. He is not going to let lap traffic slow him down and let Humongous get a run on him. That was a pretty aggressive move by Felix, especially 11 laps in, but you know what? I understand the frustration of dealing with lap traffic, and he has the Nerf bar on the front of that car for a reason. He is not afraid to use it here in that 217 entry. Further back in the field, battling for 15th, is Frosty Film in that number 7 entry. He won our previous race back at Hickory Motor Speedway. He does not seem to be having as much luck here at Southern National, but he is still back where he qualified back in 15th, currently trying to get around Valnar and Bloody Wolf in the 93 and 770 machines. He did put a fairly decent qualifying time on the board. There's not much room between the drivers in terms of lap times here tonight, except for the couple of outliers down back at the very back, as we do start to encounter a little bit of lap traffic. The timing and scoring board is not particularly happy tonight. We did install a couple of dollar store transponders onto these cars, but you know, we gotta fit things into the budget here at Ottercar, and it seems that transponders are something that we cheaped out on. But that's okay, we still have a pretty good semblance of an idea of where cars are on the track. It does look like we actually have some cars already going a lap down. Felix did use the bumper to move Piper out of the way pretty handily, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's willing to do it again to Thirds or Halo, these next two drivers that are up on the chopping block to go a lap down here tonight. Felix trying to make the lone line work without getting too tangled up in the lap cars, but the longer he gets stuck behind Thirds in that number 3 entry, the more time Humongous in the 621 has to get around him, and it looks like Hugh is getting pretty close to doing just that in that number 621 machine. Hugh working the outside line pretty well. He's seeing that even if the high side isn't necessarily the favorable line, Halo is going faster than August and Thirds. So he's just going to get himself in line behind Halo, and that will get him the position. Humongous in the 621, your new race leader here tonight. No bonus points here in Ottercar for leading the race, unfortunately, but it does certainly look good to pad out those stats on a resume, so hey, that's looking good both for the drivers of the 621 and the 217. That said though, Felix is not giving up without a fight. Felix is back into the lead of this race as Hugh still is up on the high side. Felix gone down low, and For a second, it looked like Halo was actually going to let him by there, but Halo is still locking down that low line. Halo is just running its race here tonight, and that's all it really can do. You don't want to go a lap down. If a caution comes out, they will be sent to the back of the field, but they will still be on the lead lap. And sometimes that's all the difference that you need. Back in the 4th spot, Octave and Pav are both side-by-side battling, along with Peak Comedy. These 3 drivers currently battling for 4th, 5th, and 6th. Octave, in that number 11 car, rounded out our top 5 in the previous race, so he is certainly wanting to secure another top 5 here tonight if he can manage to pull it off. The driver of that number 11 entry, our Qatari driver, is been doing a pretty good job so far this season, and even if you're not necessarily winning races, even getting in top 5s this early on in the season can put you into a pretty favorable position later on. Not everything is about wins, and ultimately the championship for Ottercar is going to come down to who has the best average finish, because that's what's going to get you the most points. Of course, generally that does tend to lean towards whichever driver has the most wins, but that isn't always necessarily the case, so we definitely should not rule out our drivers that are a couple spots behind the podium. A little bit further back, in the 8th position, in that 420 machine, 3 spots down from where he qualified, currently trying to work his way around Sarah Saviron on the outside. And he does that without much trouble at all. Sarah may be trying to conserve her tires a little bit in that 117 entry, but she also is up a few positions from where she qualified, so she could just be content with finishing higher up than where she started, and sometimes that's all you need. Everyone has their own goals here in Ottercar, and sometimes simply doing better than you qualified is good enough for some drivers. That said, we are starting to get quite the gaggle of cars up here. A whole lot of lap traffic mixing in with our top 7 drivers. Trying to get his nose up under Piper and maybe use a little bit of the chrome horn to make this pass stick, but Piper was managed to get out of the way there. Things could have looked very poorly if he did not drift up the track. There seemed like a pretty good chance of Peak Comedy in that 717 looking to get some revenge. He was involved in a pretty massive wreck in the previous race. It is good to see that he's doing okay, but I would imagine that his feelings are probably still a little bit hurt after being sent up onto his lid at Hickory Motor Speedway. Now, I don't think Piper was actually the driver who did the act of flipping him over, but, honestly, there are times where drivers will feel that the whole field has wronged them for the audacity of being in their way. And Peak Comedy is just the driver who is not going to be afraid to run other cars out of the way when he feels it's necessary. Peak Comedy currently stuck behind Arvo Soborov in the number 429 entry. Arvo Soborov currently 2 laps down. Arvo was involved in a pretty significant technical issue at the start of our previous race. We don't think he was involved in a wreck by any chance, but pretty much right as the race started, he pulled into pits and just parked it for most of the race. So it is good to see him out on track here tonight, but it does look like he is still dealing with perhaps some mechanical issues under the hood of that number 429 Tour modified machine. Back up in the 12th position, a driver we have not talked about very much since the start of Ottercar, the number 93 of Blue DeWolf. Blue is actually one of the very few drivers here in Ottercar that is not a rookie. Blue has had experience driving the Tour Modified in the past in another league, such as Attrition Sim Race Campus, which actually Blue helps steward. So it is cool to see him out here tonight in Ottercar, be it in an AI form, driving that Ferrari red number 93 butt kicker entry. He is running the very low line, almost getting onto the apron on some of these corners, but he does seem to be making it work for him a bit. He is up 2 spots from where he qualified and seems to be gaining ground with every passing lap. Up in 4th position, Pav in the number 12 is currently our race's biggest mover here tonight. He is currently up 4 spots from where he qualified. He is now sitting pretty solidly on the podium, but he is getting a whole lot of pressure from Octave in that 11 machine just behind him. 11 of Octave is currently sitting in P4. Bend over there in that all-white Got Milk 69 is also battling for position here. It looks like Lake and Zoe are, however, lap cars. That pink and yellow 330 and the purple and green 666 entry are both lap cars, and it looks like Pav is also going to take the bumper to Piper to get him out of the way. These lead lap cars are not being very forgiving to lap traffic here tonight at Southern National Motorsports Park. I wouldn't be surprised if eventually one of these drivers gets a little bit overzealous and ends up turning one of them. So these lap cars definitely need to not race with their mirror, because of course racing with your mirror is not really racing, but they do need to be wary of what's going on behind them, because these lead lap cars, especially our 3 cars in the podium, Felix Murray, Humongous, Octave, Pav, they have proven themselves not to be afraid to put the bumper into these lap cars here tonight. Pav now getting stuck behind Valnar in the 770, Octave and Bendover both managing to get around. Octave's going to try his, or Pav's going to try his luck up on the high side, but he is still having a bit of difficulty getting around Valnar in the 776. Valnar currently in 14th place. He is down 1 lap and only down 1 position from where he qualified, so he's not doing that bad. In fact, he is not doing particularly the best as he probably wants to be, as he did get a top 5 in the previous race, but every point counts, and he is just here running his race the best he can. He may be holding up the leaders a little bit, but the drivers do not have any obligation to move over for the leaders, and as we've seen on a couple of instances, there are times where they are not going to. They don't care. Pav pushed up to the high side yet again. He's having a real hard time getting around these lap cars. It won't be too long before, in the 420 machine starts to catch up to him here tonight. But he does have about 2 seconds of gap to work with, so he is going to at least be able to not have to worry too much behind as he tries and figures out how to get around Valnar in that 776. It did look like there was a bit of a position change for Madcap. Madcap now getting close to going a lap down as Felix again starts using the bumper on lap cars. That's a little bit unsportsmanlike, but if that's what he feels is going to make things happen for him, then so be it. Though if he causes a caution, that is going to mean a bit of trouble for him, because lap cars do get sent to the back of the field when the caution comes out, and that will give Humongous in the 621 plenty of opportunity to do something, even really anything, to Felix Murray. So he may be getting greedy with that bumper, but he has to think about what he's doing here. That might just throw away his win if he gets too aggressive with it. Back down in 20th, Maroon in the 25 machine. Currently down one position from where he qualified, but not he's not last. We can give him that. He is doing his best. He's running a very nice looking new paint scheme that he actually did entirely himself. He didn't get any designers to help him wrap it. He just sat down, got a paint bucket, and got to work. And I gotta say, that new number 25 hot rod is looking very nice out here under the sunset. Up in third place, Bendover, still getting a lot of heat from Octave. These two drivers have been duking it out for most of the race here tonight, and it looks like that's not going to change. Both drivers quickly diving down to the low side to get around Arvo Sovorov in the 429. Thirds following suit as well. I don't believe Thirds and Arvo are battling for position. They are not. Things are getting a little bit chaotic with lap traffic here tonight. Cars are kind of all over the place. Some are battling for position, some aren't. And basically everyone is just doing what they can to get to the checkered flag here tonight. And hopefully not have to pay a couple $1,000s for a new hot rod in the process. No one wants that. Further back, I am trying to find where those 3 wide cars were. I'm not quite sure who that was. That might have been blue. It probably was blue in that red 93. Things are looking a bit hectic back here. Looking on board with Med in the number 1 machine. They are almost making contact there, pushing it 3 wide down the front stretch, and probably about to make it 3 wide again through the corner. Med currently in 19th, up 1 position here tonight, from where she qualified. She is just kind of going with the flow here, it seems like. 19th position, not exactly where this driver wants to finish, especially after finishing 20th in the previous race, but sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. The battle is heating up a bit for 13th for Frosty Film in that number 7 machine. Frosty, our previous race winner, in that orange in gray number 7 with the very purple wheels. That certainly is a color combination. I don't know what emotions that it makes me feel, but it does make me feel emotions, and he is currently battling with Valnar in that 776. Have pushing it 3 wide again. He's trying to do pretty much whatever he can to try and get back to Octave in the number 11 machine, but with big 5 laps up in the air to go, it does not look like he'll be able to do it, though he does again put the bumper to Valnar. Val very quickly moving up out of the way for him, but he is he does seem a little bit stuck, even with quite literally shoving other drivers out of the way, trying to get to Octave up in the 11 machine. 3 laps to go here tonight at Southern National Motorsports Park, and things are looking fairly spread out. Currently the closest battle on the track is for 7th place with Peak Comedy and Oh You Know. Peak Comedy currently running the low line, stuck behind Frosty Film. Oh You Know up in that teal and yellow Pop-Tarts Frosted Berry machine, but Just like that, Felix Murray takes the checkered flag with quite a handy lead here tonight at Southern National Motorsports Park. That was quite the LA traffic of a race, but Felix Murray managed to get it done, leading almost all of the race here tonight. Not quite all of it. There was a decent bit that was led by Humongous. But Felix Murray in the 217 manages to take the checkered flag here tonight at Southern National. Let's go ahead and take a quick look down at our race results. Finishing in first place tonight, driving the number 217 machine, was Felix Murray. In P2, driving the 621, finishing where he qualified, was Humongous. Third place goes to Bendover in the 69 machine, with fourth going to the 11 of Octave. Rounding out our top 5 here tonight is Pav in the number 12 entry for the Rainbow Society Team 1. 6 to Oh You Know in the 420 for Rainbow Society Team 2. 7th to Peak Comedy in the 717, 8th to Madcap in the 38 for Blazed and Drunk Drivers, 9th to Sarah Saviron in the 117, 10th to Stick in the 53, 11th to Dragon Space Queen in the 37, 12th to Bloody Wolf in the 93, 13th to Valnar in the 776, 14th to our previous race winner, Frosty Film, in the number 7, Lake in the 330 gets 15th, Halo in 16th, August in 17th, Thirds in 18th, Med in the 1 car in 19th, Maroon in the 25 in 20th, Drop Table Roster in 21st, 22nd to Piper, 23rd to Arvo Soberov, and 24th to Zoe, rounding out our field tonight. Next week will be one of our wild card rounds here, folks. We will be heading up to the country roads of West Virginia to the Summit Point Raceway. And for those of you who know your East Coast racetracks, you might know that that is a road course, ladies and gentlemen. So we will be going out and making right turns next week. That's a skill a lot of these drivers have not seemed to master, so there is a very good chance that we will be seeing drivers who traditionally have not been doing particularly good so far this season, making their grand, spectacular debuts at the Summit Point Raceway next week. But that's all we have for today here at the Southern National Motorsports Park. Thank you all for coming out, race fans, and I will see you all next week.